right, let's bring in our powerhouse panel. Got a member of Project 21, Donna Jackson, political analyst Mark Halperin, and former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates. Former Trump attorney Michael Cohen speaking to CNN yesterday, a day after the raid of Rudy Giuliani's Manhattan apartment. Cohen said he warned Rudy Giuliani that something like this could happen. Take a listen.
My parents always told me it's not nice to gloat, but Rudy, I told you so. I told you so.
What do you
this
mean?
Is
what did you tell him?
Well, what I told him was that Donald Trump doesn't care about anyone or anything, that he will be the next one to be thrown under the bus. And that's exactly what's going to happen.
I mean, his parents apparently told him not to gloat. The lesson didn't actually take root. Rick, I'll start with you. What are we to make of this? Again, to be clear for our audience, the raid was connected to activities in Ukraine by Rudy Giuliani, which are independent, theoretically, of what President Trump has going on. What do you think is happening here?
Yeah, the problem with Michael's comment is he, at one end, warned Rudy Giuliani that Trump might throw him under the bus. But Michael pursued that same path for a long period of time before, he decided to change his tact and opinion of the president. And Michael was very supportive. I think everybody remembers, I will take a bullet for, President Trump in Michael's line. So I think what you're seeing is, it's easy to step back, and now that you're on this side of it, come up with a comment in regard to that. I think the relationship between the president and Rudy is very strong. And I think you're going to continue to see that as this unfolds. It is an unrelated issue. And I think Rudy's probably going to fight it very aggressively, as he should.
Now, Mark, I'll come to you because, it's very well just in general, in the law, you go after the smaller fish to get to the bigger fish. You talk about what's happening right now, this actual inquiry into Rudy Giuliani, the attorney for the president. Do you think this is perhaps a tactic to try to see if they can ramp up their dig into President Trump by this DOJ?
Joe, remember this investigation started under the previous administration, under Donald Trump's administration. I think we always have to be skeptical of leaks from prosecutors. I think people are obviously, including the former mayor, innocent till proven guilty. But this is a serious investigation, and let's hope that when they finally do come forward with information through an indictment or something else, let's hope it's based on the rule of law and not based on politics.
Well, we can only hope. President Biden speaking in Georgia at one point, losing his mask. Take a look.
Looking for my mask. I'm in trouble.
Higher and higher was the song. Biden seems to be seeking to new lows every day, Donna. The Biden administration announcing its intentions Thursday to ban menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars, including menthol. The FDA pointing to studies suggesting a menthol ban would help people quit smoking because menthol makes tobacco more palatable. Should this be a priority? I feel like it's just one big wag the dog session here with this administration. Joe Biden being the old man walking very slowly up the aisle on the bullet train, speeding towards the end of the world.
This is an attempt to micromanage minority communities and making menthol about race. Their whole premise behind this is that a higher number of minorities use menthol, and so every instance opportunity that they have, they're always trying to bring race in it, and this is no different. It's about micromanaging and controlling people's lives by saying at any moment we can take away whatever you have, and they've always used the scare tactics with minority communities. They're always over-regulating and threatening minority communities. It's only going to make situations worse because, it'll just make it a black market item. And I think it's just more about control than anything else. It's about controlling individuals, and it's about trying to make race an issue always.
Right now, Mark, I want to come to you. We have a lot of reaction coming from South to South Carolina Senator Tim Scott's rebuttal to the president's speech. We've seen the racial tropes trending on Twitter. Apparently, that's in line with their community standards. We've seen the absolute disdain that people had for suggesting that America is not a racist nation, all while Senator Scott acknowledges the pain and suffering of our original sin and the vestiges of that racism to this day. You know, how do we get a society to come together where we're not literally cherry picking each other's words and ignoring the pain that is shared between all of us?
Senator Scott and his supporters could have, unfortunately, predicted exactly the reaction they get from the left. It's a shame. I feel the same way about the right's reaction to the president's speech. You know, these speeches were both, I thought, quite good. I thought they both represented the sort of central arguments of their two parties. And I just wish on social media and elsewhere, people would look at what these two men said rather than engaging in reflexive criticism or the symbolic politics, particularly in the case of Senator Scott, of race. He did a great job in expressing his point of view. And the way he's treated, as I said, he unfortunately could have predicted exactly how the left would have reacted to him.
Now, Rick, I think there's a lot of truth there. You know, how do we actually get out of these bubbles where we reflexively react to what we want to hear without actually listening to the words coming out of other people's mouths?
Racism is not a political issue, but our politicians want to make it into that because they use it as a tool to retain and then gain additional power. And it's an easy one to prey on the American people. Racism is a human issue. It's about how we treat each other. And I think the idea that somebody would go out and call Senator Tim Scott, a racist is just absolutely, unfounded. And I think, Mark's absolutely right. What we need to do is get to a point where the communities are driving the rhetoric. The communities are pushing for, changes that need to be done and not necessarily relying on our politicians because they clearly aren't getting the job done.
Now, Donna, I'll come to you because in many ways, Joe Biden wouldn't be president today without support of black voters in South Carolina, without Jim Clyburn throwing his arm around him and saying, "We know Joe." You got to go back and think that the train was leaving the station. Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders looked like they were well positioned. In any normal election, Joe Biden would have had to drop out, save the black voters of South Carolina who literally saved him. And now he can't actually seem to find grace, and the left can't seem to find grace for the only black Republican senator elected from the South in the state of South Carolina since the 1800s.
Well, listen, we say the only black Republican senator. There's only one black Democratic senator, too. So let's not say the only when there's so many African Americans in the Democratic Party. Listen, liberals hate black ambition. They hate any minorities that will speak out and think for themselves. That's always been an issue. They were going to attack him no matter if he didn't say a thing just because he's black. They don't want any African American to have the audacity to think that they can vote anything but Democrats. We should remember, they attacked 50 Cent for saying he didn't want to pay high taxes. They attacked Ice Cube for even wanting to work with Donald Trump. Every African American is going to be attacked by white liberals. It's like being being an abused child with an abuser. It's just how much vitriol they have for you. They attack everyone that doesn't know their place. And that's the reality of it. We should see people for just being people. I'm going to tell you, as a black conservative, the reason why I like conservative is because nobody says to me, "You're a black Republican." Nobody reminds me every day that I'm black. But I can tell you right now, I don't go up to one liberal that doesn't tell me about Barack Obama, doesn't ask me about being black. They're always reminding me of it because they want to make sure that I know my place. And that's the reality of it. This race baiting is big business for Democrats. It's big business. So they don't want to see equality. They don't want people to feel like they're just human beings. They need to make sure that individuals always feel like somebody else is pulling them down. It's not about what you've achieved. It's the politics of envy. It's the politics of insecurity. It's the politics of fear, is what they use. And that's a big problem because you know what? I can tell you right now, most people that I know don't experience the amount of racism that people say they do. They don't. If you're black and someone says something to you, they says it's racist. You know what? Maybe you didn't do a good job.
Right.
You could be, if you closed your eyes, it could be the same scenario if you were white.
I think there's a lot of truth in those words, Donna. Maybe it's not racism, maybe it's placism. That
Yes.
people have to know their place, that somehow we are in support of all black people and we want them to vote as often as possible, just as long as those votes end up in our bushel. Gonna leave it there with our panel. See you guys after the break. Here's